Today we're going to be putting hood pins onto my 94 Mustang GT convertible, so stay tuned. So if you guys have been watching some of the previous episodes with this SN95 project, we ended up getting a fiberglass aftermarket hood. We got the thing wrapped, now it's looking great. But with these fiberglass hoods, it's usually a good idea to also install a set of hood pins. We don't want this stupid hood to end up flying up, wrecking the windshield and the A-pillars, at 80 miles an hour. So this car is being built for the Hot Rod Power Tour, which we've only got about 6 months left to work on it, which seems like a long time, but we've got a whole bunch of stuff left to do to this thing, swap, engine, heads, turbo setup, a whole bunch of stuff. So first things first, before we can get to pulling the engine, I figured I might as well go ahead and get the hood pins on, get that all lined up, and then we can get the hood off of this thing and then get started on the engine swap, but that'll be in a future episode. So today, let's go ahead and we'll get started with this. Let me show you what we got. So what I ended up going with was a set of hood pins from this company, Daystar. And really the only reason I went with these guys is because I wanted a black, kind of a black hood pin set. Don't ask me why. I don't know. I've had a lot of cars that have had, the regular chrome ones, and the installation is going to be pretty much the same, except with this one, it is a little bit fatter, so we're going to have to drill a little bit bigger hole into our hood. But I just, like the way it looks. Now, these are actually made specifically for fiberglass hoods or composite, carbon fiber hoods. And basically, it's supposed to be that, because this is kind of a hard, like rubber, it's almost like a polyurethane material. It's just supposed to help keep it from, breaking the fiberglass over time and all that good stuff. So, yeah, we're going to go with these. I think it'll look cool. And I've got some black cords somewhere, too. These did not come with the hood pins. I had these from some other project that was left over. So I think the combination of the black and stuff will look pretty cool. So let's go ahead and get the hood all popped, and I'll show you what we're going to do. All right, so we are going to actually get rid of the hood latch entirely. So I'd like to just, not have the hassle of this thing, just get it out of the way. And then what we're going to do basically is get rid of these guys, and we're going to use those holes to put in our hood pins. So we'll probably have to, get those out of there, maybe have to drill them out. We'll see. But yeah, we should have access, hopefully, to, we'll have to probably get all the plastic cover off. Now, I'm going to be pulling the whole motor out. We're going to be, switching everything. So I'm not sure that a lot of these covers will even go back on. So anyway, it doesn't matter though, but get out whatever you got to get out on your Mustang. If you have a Fox body or if you have a later model Mustang, it doesn't matter. But usually most guys are going to be using the factory hood stops, because our new pins are going to kind of act as the hood stop anyway. And yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and get those unscrewed, and then we'll kind of take some measurements, see what we're doing, see what we need to drill this out with. All right, so on this car, these little kind of hood stops, man, they were frozen in there, for being in there the last 30 years or whatever. So I ended up, I couldn't get them out by hand, so I ended up taking a 19 millimeter socket and my impact, and I was able to just back them out that way. So now we're left with what I think is kind of a plastic little insert, so we'll have to see if we can pry this thing out, or maybe just cut it real quick. We can get this thing out of the way, and then find out if we need to make a bigger hole to be able to get our studs down in there. All right, so for these little plastic clips, they're just pushed down in there from the factory. So I did the other side pretty easily, just with a screwdriver and a hammer. And just pops them right on out. So pretty easy. All right, so the next step we need to do is make this hole, this square hole here, we got to make it sort of semi-round. We need to be able to fit this 5/8 diameter pin through here. Now, that's going to be pretty easy. You can see there's not much we got to take out. We'll get that bigger. But the problem, the big problem, is the bottom hole. So you can see here this rail, frame rail, whatever, it's all boxed in, and so we have this little hole here underneath, but this is not big enough to be able to have our nut go through here. So what we're going to have to do is once we get this a little bit bigger, we're going to have to take a die grinder or some other tool where we can just, not make this one any bigger, but go ahead and just make the bottom one large enough that we could get our nut in there and then be able to screw it. Because the problem is this pin is not long enough to be able to go all the way through here. Like if we went all the way down like that and put our nut on the bottom, this would barely be sticking out and we would not penetrate through the top of the hood. So we have to do it this way. So let's go ahead and get our drill out, get this one drilled, and then we'll get our die grinder out and start to get the bottom rolling. Now the next thing I want to do on this is get rid of this factory hood latch. We don't need it if we already have the hood pins, and so I'd like to just get rid of this thing entirely. So I think what I'm going to do is, we can easily unbolt it. Looks like it's just 3 bolts that'll hold this whole bracket, and then we can actually get rid of this entire bracket. The only thing this bracket is supporting is part of this grill here, this plastic grill, but from what I can tell, the grill is triangulated. It's got a portion or piece down here, so I think it'll be okay if we remove it. But anyway, I'm going to try to unbolt this. We'll see, if it's got too much wiggle, then we'll leave the bracket and just remove the 2 bolts to actually take out the mechanism. I'm going to go ahead then. I'm probably just going to cut this somewhere along up closer. We're just going to simply snip it, and then we can get rid of all this stuff out of there. And then later on, eventually, I have some stuff to do in the interior. Once we do that, then I can pull that panel back off and actually take off the whole thing. But for right now, we'll just snip these bolts off, snip this, be good to go. All right, so with this bracket, it's just the 3 8mm bolts up here, the 8mm bolt here, and then I thought I was done, and I found out that no, there's actually a big old long bracket, or kind of a support bracket. You can see it there. So this guy just runs down to the bottom, and then I was thinking, oh man, that looks horrible, but from underneath the car, it was super simple. Again, that's just an 8mm, plenty of room. I just used my my little electric ratchet, got that thing right off. So now we got to see if we can wiggle this thing out. Otherwise, there's 2 bolts back here, and then we'll be able to just get this whole assembly right on out of there. And then look at how much room we got for activities now. So I was able to snip this off with just a pair of side cutters or dikes. Super simple. So yeah, that all came out. So this will be up for grabs if someone, is putting one of these things back together. So basically all the stuff I won't use, I'll end up putting it up on a lot of the Mustang boards and Facebook Marketplace. So hit me up if there's anything you need that's like emissions related crap that I'm going to be throwing away, like the stock air cleaner, a lot of this stuff's going to go. So we're going to make room for, for turb skis and fun stuff. Also, fellas, I just picked up this Chemo ratchet off Amazon, a few weeks ago. And this thing is freaking awesome. And it was I think $60. It comes with 2 batteries. Dude. And, I was a little bit worried, is it going to be that strong? Am I going to still be having to use my 3/8 stuff? But no, this thing, for 10mm bolts, some 12, 13mm bolts that aren't super rusty, this thing just rocks and freaking rolls. So, love this thing. Forgot to mention too, so this is rock solid. So, not really sure why they even felt like they needed a support bracket. Obviously for hundreds of thousands of miles and stuff, maybe you did, but look at how that's not going freaking anywhere. So, yeah, definitely not needed. Look at how nice and clean, everything's getting now, but the problem is, look at this. Ford didn't even freaking paint. This looks like it's just the factory primer underneath here. So, and then they sprayed paint. So that sucks. So I'm probably going to end up having to kind of throw some paint down on here. Once we get the motor all pulled, we'll have to do all that crap. But the chores never end, do they, boys? So I'm also thinking about these pins here. So the other thing I'm thinking about is we've also got plenty of room right here to just be able to also make kind of a big hole right here, and then it would be easier to slide the nut in. What I'm thinking too is I might also make it easier to be able to get a tool in here to hold that nut to be able to then, tighten the top one against it, where if we just make this bottom bolt bigger here, or bottom hole bigger to be able to get our nut in, we're still not able to get any tools or anything like that in there. So I kind of almost like this idea better. And what I'm thinking is I'm going to need to repaint, this whole thing anyway. And I like the idea of being able to then sand this portion and paint it where, if we go ahead and do all this, we're never going to be able to really get paint down on the bottom of here. So, that could rust and cause some issues down the road. So I'm kind of thinking, I'm just going to take my unibit. We'll blow this hole out, get it big enough to go ahead and get our nut in there, and then we can hopefully get a wrench on it too, and at least something to be able to kind of hold it against here. So I like that idea. I think I'm going to give that a shot. And structurally, this is pretty thick steel here, so I don't think we're going to weaken this area too much. It's still going to be plenty strong to be able to hold it. So yeah, I think I feel pretty good about it. All right, so that little hole saw, that made quick work. Actually, I didn't realize this kind of came down, so I went into this portion as well. So I might even take my hammer here and just try to pinch that down. And then I think ultimately what we'll do is we'll go to the hardware store and we can just get like a plastic plug. And so we'll just have a black plastic little plug that'll go in there, and this will be plugged up. It'll look nice, but now we should have plenty of room. And what hole saw did I use? 1 1/8 inch. So that should give us plenty of room for our nut, this dude, to be able to slide in there. Probably use a magnet or something. Yeah, so that'll be easy peasy. So yeah, that hole saw, wow, that just went through it like butter. And I got some magnets and stuff, so that'll make it all easy. This way we can actually tighten this bad boy. So let's move on to that. We'll get this one done and we're good to go. All right, so I got these pins in here. It was really, really easy. So again, I think, that was so simple to do. That's easy work. I think that's the way to go. So these are in here now, just kind of hand tight on both sides, but that should be good enough. Now the strategy is we're going to take some grease. You could probably use grease, like a paint pen, anything where we can transfer what's going to be on top of this bad boy down onto the top of the hood once we lower it. So I've got some grease. I'm just going to put some grease on there, and then we're going to have to get out some bigger hole saw bits, and then we're going to start drilling into the bottom side of our hood. So let the fun start. All right, transfer marks went pretty easy, pretty nice. So I'll probably now need to figure out what size I got to do for this bad boy, but I'll probably have like my wife come out here and just help hold the hood, because the first thing we've got to do is they want us to make a really big hole to be able to get these bolts through, and that way they'll just bolt to the very kind of top side of the hood, and then this hole that'll come through the top side, this is kind of what will really hold the grommet in place, and then these are almost for show. Yeah, I don't know, we're talking a pretty big ass hole if we do it this way, so I'm not even sure what size this is. Yeah, otherwise that might work, but you'd probably have to go with this guy, honestly. So yeah, I don't know. Let me make a decision. All right, boys, moment of truth. I tell you, I'm pretty freaking nervous. So, let's see. What I'm worried about is the guide drill bit here is probably going to go through the other side as well. So hopefully it's close. We've got to drill a pretty big hole from the other side anyway. Going down to be able to get that grommet through or whatever it is. So I'm not super worried if it's kind of in the wrong spot, but I went ahead, I'm going with the biggest one. So this is my 2 11/16 drill bit. So this should give us, kind of draw out this whole area right here. And then we'll be able to get the bolts on from the other side for all that stuff. So yeah, fingers crossed. So I've already hit it also with just a punch just to be able to mark it. So I already did that. So we should be okay to go ahead and wrench on this thing here. And it's fiberglass, so it should be very simple. But let's just go slow and make sure it stays where it needs to be. Okay, right there, yeah. All right, first one done, and okay, that was pretty easy. And my worry was that the drill bit might go through this side, but that didn't happen either, so perfect. So that's great. I guess we can go do the other side now, and then what we'll do is we'll put more grease on. We'll lower it again, and then we'll be able to get where we need to have just a pilot hole go through from the underside. And then we lower the hood, then we drill our big hole from the top side. That's going to be the scariest part. So let's do it. So there's our new grease transfer marks. So now we're going to take just a small drill bit. We're going to drill this way up through the top of the hood, and then we'll be able to lower the hood down. And then with our new pilot hole, then we'll be able to take our 1 1/4 inch drill bit. So this is, 1 1/4 inch total diameter, and that'll fit perfectly with our little dudes here, so that this part can just slide right through that hole. And then the final thing we'll have to do is we'll drill these 4 small holes, and then we'll be able to bolt it hopefully from the other side. Hopefully all that works. So if we kind of look at this huge ass hole, I mean, this whole thing slides in there, right? So we should have plenty of room, all that good stuff. My beautiful hood that I just painted. So we actually had refurbished this hood. I bought it used off of Marketplace, and painted it, sanded it, and then we took it and had it wrapped. So you'll see more of that in a minute. But yeah, I might have to get some more paint and just get that all painted up so it's looking good again. But I'll end up blowing all this stuff off too with my leaf blower. Just blow all this fiberglass out of here. All right, so I took a couple of just small blocks of wood that I had laying around. I shoved those under the hood, and that way this is not resting directly over top of our pins. So next step, this is probably the scariest part. Now we've got to drill downwards with our hole saw bit with our 1 1/4 inch, and drill that out. And then we can get our grommet set in, and then we got to drill 4 very small holes just for those little bolts and stuff to go through. So yeah, so I've already got pilot holes. Now we can just go through there. My only hope is, since I have a wrap on my hood, I'm just worried that I just hope it goes through smooth and doesn't, tear the hell out of this whole wrap. So we'll see right now. Let's do it. All right, surprisingly, it looks like it all went pretty good. Looks like they line up pretty good. So now we can slide that in there, which fits great. Cool. Beautiful. Cool. So now it's just a matter of we need to drill the 4 little pilot holes for this dude. I guess we should see if it all fits. Let me let's get rid of the wood here. All right, let's see. Okay. Looks pretty good. Looks like I need to, I definitely need to adjust them up a bit to, be able to get my things through there, sliding through. But yeah, it looks like it's going to fit. Looks like maybe this one, the hole needed to be back a little bit, but because it's rubber, it's kind of the nice part too, is it'll kind of move that way. Okay, so let me decide. Maybe I do want to, if I want to make any kind of adjustments here. I mean, that's perfect. Honestly, yeah, that's just the angle. Once the screws are on there, that should hold it. Cool. All right, looks good. And it looks like these outer holes, these also look good, pretty well centered and everything. So, yeah, we should be able to easily drill our holes, be able to get our screws in there and all that good stuff. And all right, so I just used a Sharpie. I marked my holes. I did a pilot hole, and I'm going to finish it up here with a 1/4 inch drill bit. Now, the one thing I'm noticing, at least on my car, is these things are barely freaking long enough. I don't have more than like probably one thread, screwing in there. So if these were a smidge taller, that'd be nice. I might end up looking for maybe a longer set that are, some 5/8 pins, but it'll work. But it's just kind of tight. And I would like to have a little bit longer adjustment, because what some guys do is they actually take like a piece of hose that's 5/8, and then you just cut it real thin so it's almost like a washer, and you push that down. That way the hood will actually, or the bottom of this thing will actually come down and ride on that piece of rubber, almost like a stop, because we got rid of the stop. So, because like right now, this hood's kind of a little bit low here, once it's pushed all the way down. So that'll just help to raise it back up. So anyway, at least all this paint stuff looks like it's doing good. So let's get these drilled out, and then we can get it finished up. All right, so bolts are in. Now we got to put the nuts on. And these nuts are 11 millimeter, which I freaking hate 11 millimeter. I almost threw them all away until I started working on this Mustang, and Ford decided to use a bunch of 11, and so did Daystar. So what the hell? All right, so it's also an Allen bit, H4, so 4 millimeter for the top too, just to tighten them down. And let's get rolling. That 1/4 inch size for the drilling it out, that worked out perfect. It was like just barely big enough, so some of these almost like screwed in from the top, which helped hold it all in place too. Now I think when we go to tighten these are lock nuts too that it comes with. We want to make sure that we don't really like over tighten it, because otherwise it'll deform the top piece. So I think these are basically just going to be, touch it to where it's tight, that's it. Otherwise you're going to have a weird looking, thing on there. All right, so I just went and did the final tightening on these bad boys. I just shoved a screwdriver through there and then used my my adjustable wrench to be able to tighten that and keep these from moving. So I'm going to try them in this position, straight like that, just because I'm hoping that'll help me to get the pin through. Because again, these are a little bit short, but they seem to work. So I'm going to go ahead and clean it all up, and then I'll show you guys what we got. Look at that, boys. Yeah, see, it's still tight, but it works. Well, I tell you what, she ain't going nowhere now. I still got to put on these, the black little tassel dudes, but I got to figure out where the heck they can go to. Yeah, let's figure that out real quick. All right, so these guys that I got, they're not too long. I think they're too short is going to be the issue. So yeah, there's not a whole lot of, I mean, look, just the way these are, right? If these were attached, there's really nothing there. So I'm going to have to go online, shop around for some longer ones. All right, guys, that's going to be it for this video. If you're thinking about doing hood pins on your SN95 Mustang or even a Fox body or some of the later stuff, really any car, it's almost always the same exact procedure. And then, of course, with these Daystar hood pins, it adds a little bit more complexity because you're making some additional larger holes that you usually wouldn't even have to do. So, but anyway, again, for composite hoods, hopefully this thing does what they say and it lasts a long time, works really well. The whole funny thing about this whole installation is I'm not even sure that my hood's going to fit anymore after we get this new motor in there with the Holley high ram. I am thinking we're probably not going to have any room, or we're going to have to cut some kind of hole, or the other option is Holley does make a side mount top plenum portion. It's actually for Mustangs, so it would come this way, but I really like it to come out the middle. So anyway, we'll find out about that later on in the build. But anyway, like, share, subscribe. Check out some of the other videos. I've done probably, 10, 12 videos on this Mustang, and we're going to keep doing a bunch more because we're getting this thing ready for the Hot Rod Power Tour that's coming up in June. So like I said, I've only got about 6 months left, and I've got to, get this whole drivetrain pulled out. I'm putting in new rear gears, 430 gears, the aluminum heads, the cam, turbo, all that stuff's going on in this thing. So there's a lot of stuff to do and not a whole lot of time. So that's going to be it for this one, guys. Take care. See you later.